Hey FlossTube, this is Brian, otherwise known as blitstitch, both here on YouTube and also on Instagram. Or you could also call me what Angie called me on Instagram a couple of days ago, which is another cool dude stitcher. I really like the sound of that. So anyway, welcome back. If you're here for the first time, welcome. I hope that you enjoy my videos. If you're returning, welcome back. This is my 15th video, and it will be an update of my May progress and my May stitching. First of all, once again, thanks to everybody for all of your comments, for all of your support. I really appreciate it. So first of all, I just want to respond to some of the comments that have been left on my videos since the last video that I posted. First of all, Lori, who is Mischievous Stitches, I'll link to her channel below. She mentioned in a previous video that she had bought a perfect setting and that I had enabled her because of my finish with Verandas of South Battery, which is done by the same designer. And I left Lori a message and said, I don't know if you know, but I've also stitched a perfect setting. And so I thought that I'd get out a perfect setting and so that I could show it again. Because it's a perfect setting is like the largest piece of cross stitch that I've ever done. So so I'm going to show it to you. Here's my project row with everything I'm going to show you today. And we're going to start with a perfect setting. So if you just want to hold on just a second, I'm gonna drop down. So Lori, this is what a perfect setting looks like all stitched up. And I thought if you're gonna stitch this piece, I thought I'd give you a couple of pointers about it. Vonna has already started this. She showed that in her last video, which I'll link. And if you're going to stitch this, you really need to be in it for the long haul. It's 200 stitches by 330 stitches, so that's 66,000 stitches. It took me about 9 months of almost solid stitching. Well, there were a couple of months when I worked on something else, but so maybe 7 or 8 months for me to stitch this. Another thing that first I'm going to tell you a little bit of story about this. So when I started this years and years ago, and back when I started it, I was stitching one color at a time. I'd choose a color to stitch, and I'd stitch everything that I could until I ran out of a length of floss, and then I'd choose another color to stitch and do the same thing. And I started down here in this corner, and I was really kind of shocked. I was kind of surprised because the main color in this lawn is 3046 and 3047. And if you know your DMC colors, that's more of a yellow color. And I'd look at the picture and the lawn looked green, and I stitched it and I was like, where's the green? It's all yellow through here. And I was kind of disappointed about that for a while. And I stitched over here. I came down to about here. I stitched this palm tree, and then I got over here into this tree, and I got lost, and I just could not see how anything ran, and I got really discouraged. And this got put up for several years before I actually pulled it out again. And when I pulled it out again, this is the second piece that I started stitching when I was parking. And most of this piece was stitched. I was working this way, stitching vertically this way in rows of 10. And so most of this piece is stitched kind of in rows of 10. But I also this is the first piece that I started stitching diagonally on. So when I got up into this upper quarter up here, that's when I started to decide to experiment with stitching diagonally. So this piece is really quite significant to me for several reasons. And so if you start down here like Vanna did and everything looks yellow, just be patient, because now when I look at it, it looks green to me, and it matches the picture that came with the chart. And I think the reason that is that the other colors push this towards green, so it looks greener. So just have patience with it. When you get it all done, it'll look awesome. So I'm really quite. This is one of the pieces that I'm most proud of, mostly just because of its size. Yeah, it's all full cross stitches. There's no partial stitches, so it's not really hard. It's just takes a long time to stitch. Okay. Now, also in my last video, I asked for suggestions for pieces that would be equivalent to Teresa Wentzler's Stroke of Midnight, which is Cinderella, and you guys seem to be as stumped as I am. I had several people say there's nothing that compares to Teresa Wentzler, and I had a couple of suggestions. A couple of people suggested Rapunzel, which I think is good, but I'm also worried that Rapunzel's a little bit smaller than Stroke of Midnight. I had several people recommend several different Mirabilias. I had somebody, let's see, I had somebody recommend a Teresa Gill chart of Princess Grace in a gown that is just beautiful, and it is very similar to Stroke of Midnight. I mean, it's a woman in a fancy ball gown. There's kind of a little bit of a setting behind her. It looks really beautiful, and I think someday I may stitch that. It's not as big as Stroke of Midnight. And I had somebody say every piece is the reason why Stroke of Midnight looks so great is because it's in a setting, and I think that's true too. However, I also asked one of my daughters if they had to choose between Stroke of Midnight and Red. I asked them which one would they choose, and my daughter said, that would be a very difficult decision. So maybe my concerns are just not well founded. I do plan on stitching more ladies for them. I figure that if I have a whole bunch of them stitched, then they can choose the ones they want, and the more there are, the less conflict there will be when I die. Anyway, I don't know for sure, but I think the next lady that I'm going to stitch is going to be Queen Anne's Lace, which is a design by Lavender and Lace that I really love, and I think that she is size-wise is very comparable to my Cinderella, and I think that she is much more elegant and much more comparable. So I think that's what I'm going to go with next. It's going to be a while. I'm still working on getting my whips down, so don't expect to see that anytime soon. Jan England asked me if I've ever tried Hardanger. I really haven't. I guess it's time for a confession. I think everybody knows about the Christmas house. It's a design that was in Cross Stitch and Country Crafts in the 90s. It's a piece that is it's stitched on two pieces, and you stitch the house, and then you cut out windows, and then there's a tree that goes in the background behind the windows. I stitched the first part of that house, and when it came time to start cutting fabric, my scissors were not small enough to get in between the threads to be able to cut a thread, and I really struggled trying to decide how to cut them, and the best thing that I could come up with at the time was an X-Acto knife. So I started using an X-Acto knife, and the X-Acto knife did a good job cutting, but it cut more than I wanted to cut, and I got really discouraged because I had a couple of threads that I had cut that I didn't want to cut in the fabric, and it got thrown away. So so that's the closest that I've come to doing hardanger. I would like to do it sometime. I would like to do Christmas House again, and try to find a pair of scissors that would be small enough that I could actually get in between the threads to be able to cut them, and actually try cutting them that way. So maybe that'll happen sometime. Also, I was kind of surprised. I had several people say that they are organists, so I want to give a shout out to all the fellow organist cross-stitchers out there. That includes Quigley MP, Elaine Williford, and also Melody Stewart said that her husband is a professional organist. So I think that's just awesome that there are more organ players out there. Sherry Keever asked if my wife has a hobby that she does while I cross stitch. So my wife does a lot of reading. I stitch on the kitchen table, so if anything else is going on, I'm there. I'm not holed up in my bedroom. But yeah, we don't really have a hobby that we do together. Stephanie, Lindy Stitches, commented on my last video that when I was talking about making projects inactive, that I was holding a forest screw, and I knew that would be a little bit confusing when I saw that when I was editing my video, but I didn't know how to edit it out, and I didn't want to film again. So even though I said I'm going to make things inactive, and I'm holding a forest screw up like this, trying to get to what I really wanted to show you, that's not what I meant. Ellen Rainey said I should never use the word lazy when I talk about myself. And in the computer science world, I just mentioned lazy as a compliment, because lazy programmers are programmers who don't want to do the same thing over and over again, and so they come up with ways to avoid having to do the same thing over and over again. So lazy is kind of a compliment that I used for myself. Also, Stitching Human asked me to share how I make my charts. So I've had that request a couple of times, so I decided I'm going to share one of my spreadsheets. I've already shared the spreadsheet that I use to keep track of my stitching during the day. I'm going to share another spreadsheet that shows how I keep track of my stitching throughout the year. So I'll put a link to that spreadsheet in the comments below. You can download it, modify it to your heart's content to do what you want to do. Basically, all you do is you enter in the number of stitches that you do each day, and then there's a bunch of magic that will create some of the graphs that I show. So if you're interested, check out the spreadsheet down below. Bead and Stitches evidently has had a lot of experience beading, and she said that she mentioned that gray Nymo blends into just about anything. So if you want to bead something, a good bet for the choice of what to use is gray Nymo thread. I didn't have any, but I think for my next project that requires a lot of beading, I'll probably get some gray Nymo. Bendy Stitchy Michelle Garrett, she said she found my channel and she said everybody started shouting you out, so I felt like I needed to come to check you out. And I just want to say I hope that I know about everybody who has shouted me out. If I haven't commented when you shouted me out, then I'm sorry. My time for viewing FlossTube videos is limited, and I don't really have enough time to watch everything. So if you have shouted me out and I'm not aware of that, I'm sorry. I want to echo what Laureate Mischievous Stitches said in one of her videos. If you come and find my channel because of somebody shouting me out, let me know. I would love to be able to go back and thank people who have shouted me out. I would really appreciate that. And also, I also want to point out one other video that I've seen. It's a video by Alex Stitch, who I mentioned before. He's a Russian stitcher, and he just posted a video of a project that he's been stitching that is Jacobean crewel work. And it is just it's just amazing. I just fell in love with what he was doing. There's so much texture to it and so much detail, and it was so colorful. So go out and check him out. It kind of makes me want to kind of explore crewel embroidery a little bit. I don't know. But I've kind of looked for some books and haven't really found anything that I felt like would know for sure that that was exactly what I want. So if anybody knows about a book that talks about Jacobean crewel embroidery work that looks similar to what Alex has done, let me know. I'd like to kind of at least explore it a little bit. Oh, and also one other piece of news. I took our family tree in to be framed. I took it into the framer at Antque Needlework. So it's in the framers right now. It's supposed to be done by the middle of this week. I'll be excited to see how it turns out. That was an interesting experience taking that in, because I've taken pieces into Michael's before, and the people behind the desk or some other place, and the people who help me have always just been kind of, oh yeah, whatever. And when I took it into Antque Needlework, the ladies in there were they gushed over it. They gushed over my piece. And I felt I was a little bit self-conscious about doing that, because here I am, I'm taking in a piece that I've stitched into a place where, I mean, there's stitchers, right? And I was like, and you guys say, everybody says that you love my stuff and the way I stitch, but let's be honest, the camera can hide a lot of imperfections. And so to actually take a piece into a needlework store was a little bit intimidating, but they just gushed over it and talked about how beautiful it was and how wonderful the stitching was. So that felt really, really kind of nice. It was kind of fun to do that. So I agonized for quite a while over mats and a frame, and I have a gold frame. It's kind of pretty ornate. It has kind of scroll work detail on it. And then I've got kind of a rose and a dark red mat to kind of go with the silk embroidery flowers that are on it. So I'm excited to see how it turns out. My parents' 50th wedding anniversary is the end of July. So we'll be heading up north to visit them and to celebrate. And I am really excited to be able to take that up and give it to my parents. So let's do my month in review. May has been kind of a strange month for me, but it's been a good month. My daughter has been going to BYU. We got her back for the summer. It's nice to have her around. Without her here, there's kind of a hole in our family, so it feels good to have her around. We still have a hole in our family. My son is in Mexico. He's been there for about 20 months now. He comes home the end of September, and we're all starting to really look forward to then. We did get to talk to him again. We Skyped him on Mother's Day, and that made Mother's Day really quite nice for my family. He seems to be doing well. He does a lot of walking. I haven't really mentioned that, but we are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You might know us as Mormons. And my son is serving an LDS mission in central Mexico. So he does a lot of walking. He's worn out 2 pairs of shoes, and he seems like physically he's done a lot of walking. But we had a really good Mother's Day talking to him, and are looking forward to him being home in September. So family-wise, it was great. stitching wise, it was kind of strange. And the reason why it was kind of strange was all of my finishes in April, I kind of had a hangover, I guess, at the beginning of the month, because it was like, here I was finishing stuff, and then I'm back to the grind of working on my pieces. I was also seeing everybody on Instagram and on YouTube talking about all their starts they were doing for Stitch Mania, and it gave me the urge to start something. But really, I didn't know if I decided I wanted to start something, I didn't know what I wanted to start. It was kind of a strange feeling, because I just couldn't bring myself, even with everybody starting stuff, I couldn't bring myself to start another great big huge project. And so the first part of the month was really quite strange for me. But then I came up with an idea that kind of quieted me down, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But first of all, let's talk about my graphs. So here we go. Here's my monthly trend. You will see that, wow, I didn't realize I had done quite as much stitching as I did until I got to the end of the month. You'll see my days are pretty good, and this is the second highest number of stitches that I've ever stitched. Because I'd done all of my stitching, I felt like all of my projects were calling to me to stitch on them, and so I really had a desire to touch. I decided that I was going to stitch on everything that I was working on. So here is the Pareto showing the number of days that I worked on each project. You'll see that there are 7 pieces that I worked on. So I did a lot. I decided I cut down the time of my rotation to about 5 days, and even on some of my pieces I stitched on them a little bit less than that, mainly because I got to a point where I felt like I had accomplished all that I needed to and that I could move on. So here's the number of stitches that I put into each project. Something that's interesting here, and we'll talk about English Garden Sampler a little bit later, is that Autumn Magic, in spite of the fact that I worked on it about the same as the others, it's not the loser this time. I actually put in more stitches in Autumn Magic than I did a couple of other things, which is kind of interesting. So, and here's my monthly whip trend, which proves that I am completely fickle and that will change my plans on the dime. On a dime. You will see that I made a project active again, and that's English Garden Sampler, and when I get to it I'll talk about why. And you'll see I also had another start. I figured out what I wanted to start and kind of came up with a plan that I really like, that I'm going to talk about a little bit later. So there's my summary for May. So let's look at what I worked on. The first piece that I worked on was Let Freedom Ring. Of course, this is by Lila's Studio. I am stitching it on 32 count cream Belfast linen with the recommended floss. And as most of you know, but I'll say it again, we have a stitch along group on Facebook. You are welcome to join us. I am still having people requesting to join. If you're stitching this and you want to join us, you are more than welcome to join us. Just search for Let Freedom Ring Sampler Stitch Along and request to join us. I kind of feel like people on the group are posting progress, and they're really putting me to shame. They have stitched so much more of this than I have. So, and that part of that is I just haven't spent a whole lot of time on it yet. But I'll show you a picture of what it looked like the last time you saw it here. And this piece, this is what it looks like now. So I got over here, I've been stitching more of the lower border. I started this horse here, and I've kind of had a hard time with this, and it's kind of turned me off of it a little bit. The first thing is there is a counting error here on this Independence Day. That first I in Independence is I didn't put enough. There's one stitch less than the I, and that's made it so that all of the other letters, the whole letter is one thread higher than it is supposed to be. I'm not going to worry about that. The thought of pulling out all of that over one stitching is too awful for me to contemplate, so it's going to stay. And then when I was stitching this U in July, I stitched one stitch too narrow, and that pulled everything this way and made it so things were not lining up. I got down to this horse, and the horse was running into the eye because of that, and it took me a while to figure out what I'd done wrong. And so I had to take out a whole bunch of stitches and restitch. And I think I'm also having problems because I am tired of stitching oak leaves. I talked about whether or not I was going to take this out, and I was actually thinking about redoing that, but right now I'm so tired of oak leaves that I think it's going to stay in. I think I'll feel better about it when I actually get up working on the building. I'm excited to do that. So, yeah, I feel guilty because it looks wonderful, but right now I'm not having a good time stitching it. The next piece that I worked on is Corazon Sampler. This is a design by CloRaMi Designs, a designer in Belgium. I'm stitching this on 36 count antique white Edinburgh linen. I'm stitching it with DMC 815, which is a nice color of red. I'll insert a picture of what it looks like the last time you saw it. And like I say, it's been so long, all these pieces felt like I hadn't stitched on them forever. So that's what it looked like before. And this is what it looks like now. Boy, this is getting hard to get into the picture. So what I did is I stitched this, I think this is a heron. So I stitched the heron. And then that was really fun. I really like the heron. I like how this wing changes from white background to from a red background to a white background. I love that transition on that wing. And then I stitched these letters, this rose. I finished this alphabet and stitched this rose. This is a circle of roses, so there's going to be 3 more roses that I have to stitch. And I started another alphabet. I really think that this is going to be, it's not going to take me much more time to do because it's mostly little alphabets, and then I have the rest of this great big alphabet to stitch. Oh, and then there's some more of this alphabet that I need to stitch. But I really am starting to feel like I'm getting close to the end with this piece. And, oh, I just love it. This is so fun. It is fun to not have to worry about changing colors. And it's fun to see everything just take shape. So, next. In my last video I said, I'm not going to work on English Garden Sampler for a little bit. And then Philip, Pip Stitch, he commented and said, I'm kind of disappointed that you're not stitching that. I really wanted to see you work through that. And that kind of made me feel guilty. And the reason why it made me feel guilty is I wasn't being entirely honest with myself. It's not that I was not feeling like stitching it, it's that I was scared. And I didn't want to deal with the confetti. I'd look at it and I'd say, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to stitch. And I'd just like be at a standstill. So it made me feel guilty for doing that. And then in his next video, he started showing all these Teresa Wentzler pieces that he's got that he wants to stitch, and boy, that really stoked my. I really want to stitch Teresa Wentzler. So I don't know. So I decided to start it, and I made it active again. So this is English Garden Sampler. It's a design by Teresa Wentzler. I don't know. It's the peacocks that I don't. They make me nervous for some reason. Partly because there's blending filament in them, and they go outside of the grid. Anyway, it's not that big a deal. It just feels that way. I'll insert it. I am stitching this on 25 count Lugana. And I'll insert a picture of what it looked like the last time you saw it. And this is what it looks like now. So I will give you a long view so you can see. Let's see here. Try to get it straight. So as you know, I have the entire frame stitched. And now I decided I'd work on the picture up on the top, which is basically a garden scene. And I've started working diagonally on this scene. And I was worried that I'd get really impatient with it because of all the confetti, and I haven't. This was a joy to stitch. I mean, it's kind of slow going because there's lots of confetti, but the colors are just really wonderful. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed stitching it. And it's not that big. I mean, the bottom corner is about here, so I'm getting close to having this entire side done. And then I'm going to work across to this other side. I mean, it's Teresa Wentzler. Look at the shading in those trees. It's just, I always think, who is it? It's Surratt, the Puntilism. He did that piece where it's all dots. That is what this feels like to me, because Teresa seems to have this rule of thumb that she can't put two stitches of the same color right next to each other. And so that makes the confetti heavy. But every time I work on her pieces, it's like you're stitching all of these different colors, and then you pull back, and it's turned into something that makes sense. It's why I like her so much. So that's going better than I thought it would, and so thank you, Philip, for getting me to do that. It was really good to stitch on it. I need to get more of that done. I've got so many Teresa Wentzler pieces that I want to do. And you saw Stephanie, Miss Oh So Crafty, she finished the castle. Oh man. that is amazing. I've never, at one time I really liked the castle, and that was one of the pieces that I was going to stitch. And then this was back in the 90s. Somebody on a bulletin board made some comment about it, which I'm not going to repeat because I don't want to ruin it for you, but it ruined that piece for me for a long time. But seeing Stephanie stitch that and seeing how it looks, I don't care. I'm going to have to stitch that sometime, especially with the blending filament. I think it's the thought of all those different colors of blending filament that really is attracting me. Okay, the next piece I worked on. It's been a long time since I've worked on this too. Winter Sampler by Kooler Design Studios. It's actually Sandy Orton is the designer. I'm stitching it, and it's been Christmas, since before last Christmas that I worked on this piece. And it is, I'm stitching it on 28 count Tea Dyed Monaco. And I'll insert a picture of what this looked like the last time you saw it. And this is what it looks like now. So I was only able to do, I finished the diagonal I was on, and I started another diagonal up here. Santa's almost finished, I think. And he's looking really nice. I'll be glad when he's backstitched, because then he'll look even better. But I'm starting to see this is actually a W for Wonderland. So there's Wonderland, and this is all of the ice and snow, which is kind of surprising because there's this peachy color in here. My gingerbread is almost finished. He has half a head left to do. So yeah, it's looking good. It felt good to be working on this after so long time too. I just like, it's like when I came back to my stuff, it was like, oh, these pieces, I'm tired of them. They're old and stupid. But I actually start working on them, and they're really fun, wonderful, and fun to work with. The next piece I worked on is And a Forest Grew by Rosewood Manor. I'm stitching this on 32 count antique white Lugana, and I'll insert a picture of what it looked like the last time you saw it. So let me get it. And this is what it looks like now. So basically what I did is there were some trees along here that I did, and then I started working on this tree. I debated about whether or not to save the big tree to last, and I decided I was just going to work page by page. So this is the page border is basically right through here, and I actually came down there. This is dropping down into the page below. So now I think I am, no, I'm not halfway, but this is now 6 pages that are completely stitched. So the next time I think I'm going to come down and do the trunk and get this all filled in up here, and then maybe I'll do the top. The letters, I'm stitching them one at a time, but that's not a big deal to me. They're actually big enough that they're kind of fun to do, and it went really fast. So this next page over here is mostly the rest of the verse, with some pages, some trees up on top. So anyway, making good progress with this. The next piece that I worked on is Autumn Magic. This is a design by Randal Spangler as charted by Haid. I'm stitching it over 1 on 25 count Lugana. And I don't know. I guess I'm on the long side of the diagonals, and when I have longer diagonals, I get discouraged because the picture just doesn't develop quite as quickly. So I'm working through that right now. But I did couple diagonals in here. I've hit this corner of the page, which is nice. So, and this is actually the top corner of the page. So pretty soon my diagonals are going to start shrinking. But it's just like, I feel like I've stitched forever and nothing has changed. I know that's not true, but that's the way I feel, and so it's I'm having a hard time with it right now. Watch, next time I stitch it, I'll be like, oh, this is so wonderful. But right now, I'm not feeling that way. So it looks good. I mean, the steps on the porch right here, they're really coming into, they're really looking nice. But okay, so, and then, like I said, I had a new start, and this was like the last day of May. So as I said, I was getting the urge to start something, but I didn't know what I wanted to start. Every big project that I thought about just like increased my anxiety level. And then I thought, well, I have a whole bunch of small things that I want to start. Things that won't take very long to stitch. And while I continue to work on getting my whips down, if I just start a small thing, every time it'll stitch up fast, and it will give me the excitement of getting a start, and also it won't take very long to get a finish, and I'll have the excitement of getting a finish. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue. I'm going to have starts, but I'm going to start small things. That really made me feel good. So I'm going to have small starts. I'm going to work on them and finish them. It'll make me feel like I'm accomplishing something, and it will also let me start things. So the first thing I decided to start was, you'll remember last year I stitched the mallard. So I decided to start the pintail. Sorry for the glare. So I started this pintail duck. This is from For the Love of Cross Stitch, November 1994. I just realized I didn't bring my stuff to show you some of my stash. I'm sorry, that'll have to wait till next month. But here it is. This is a design. It's based on paintings by Judy Gibson, and the adaptation is done by Donna Vermillion Giampa. And I'm stitching it on 28 count light Mocha Cashel linen. It's the linen that's called for. So, and this is how far I've got. Now this includes a couple of days in June stitching, so you'll see this again. But I started down in this corner, and the reason why I did that is if you look at this duck is facing the other way, and I decided it would be easier to stitch if I stitched from the tail towards the front, because then I wouldn't have to jump up to stitch the head like I would if I went this way. It's probably a minor thing, but it's also something different to start from the from the right and work to the left instead of the other way. So it's like, oh, it'll be different. So I started down in this corner, and I've got this. The shelf is all stitched, and I'm stitching on this cloth that comes down through here. The colors in this piece are. This piece is my least favorite of the three. So, but I really like how it's turning out. Even having said that, I'm starting to see a pattern, the pattern of the coming out in the cloth. So the last duck, it took me about 10 days to stitch. So I'm thinking that I'll be able to finish this the next time it comes up in my rotation, and that'll be nice. So my plan is I'm going to finish my ducks. I'm going to finish all 4 ducks, and then I'll decide something else to work on. It may be Hometown Holiday. It may, I don't know. I've got a whole bunch of little small samplers and other things that I want to stitch. So I'm looking forward to doing that. So that's all that I have. I'm not really gonna. So I have not really made plans for June. I decided I think I'm going to go back up to a week-long rotation, but I'm not even going to stitch pieces in the order that I stitched them last month, because I don't know, I'm kind of trying to work through an order. I may just decide, which of the pieces that I haven't stitched on yet am I going to stitch, and I may just pull them out or kind of at random and stitch on them one at a time. So I'm not even going to tell you what I'm going to work on. I'm just going to work on, you've seen all the whips I've been working on. I'm actually, kind of, if I were smart, no, I don't know if this would be smart, but I've also had the idea of just going into another finishing frenzy. I think I could finish Corazon Sampler really quickly. I think I could finish the Beautiful Sea Stitch Along and just get it off my conscience, because, you know, the minute I say I'm not working on something, I start to feel guilty about it. So, I don't know. And then I think I could And a Forest Rue. Maybe I could finish it in a couple months if I really worked on it, and to the exclusion of nothing else. And there's part of me that's like, just get a whole bunch of stuff finished so that you can get down to where you want to be, which is about 4 or 5 pieces. I don't know. Who knows? All I'm going to say is I'm going to work on my whips. I'm not going to start anything unless I finish something, and I'm going to work on my whips. So if you want to see the decisions that I make, feel free to follow me on Instagram if you aren't already. I am at blitstitch on Instagram. I'll post a link to my account down below. Otherwise, I hope that you have a great month. For those of you who don't live in Arizona and who like summer, I hope you have a great summer. We're heading into the hot part of the year, which I don't particularly appreciate. So this is the time of year that I kind of start to dread. June is nice. July and August are awful. And we're getting there. So anyway, I hope you have a great month, and we will talk to you in about a month. We'll see you. Goodbye.